Well, good afternoon, everybody. As everybody is trickling in here and as we're letting folks in, I just want to welcome everybody to our sixth and final session of the Municipal Education Series on microgrids. My name is Rachel. I'm a program consultant with GEO. And as always, before I turn it over to Michael, I just have a couple of things that I'd like to cover with us today. First and foremost, the session is being recorded. It will be posted on YouTube. All five of the previous sessions are posted to the GEO YouTube channel now. It'll be posted later this week. We do ask that everybody please keep your camera and microphone off during the session. Michael and our speakers are going to be doing a Q&A at the end. We do have quite a bit of content to get through, so unfortunately we cannot stop to do questions in the middle of the session, but if you have something that you would like to ask, feel free to post that in the chat. We'll make sure to answer it at the end of the session. And if you're having any technical difficulties, feel free to email me. I will post my email in the chat here as well. And as I'm turning this over to Michael now, if everybody could post where they are calling in from in Ohio, what county are you located in?
Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. Let me see if this advances like we hope it will. Yes. Good afternoon on our final session of the Municipal Microgrid Education Series. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to do a quick review of what we covered so far, which is a lot. So those first five sessions, if you've not attended them or watched them on YouTube, you definitely want to check those out. There's a lot there. We will just barely touch on it. What we also want to focus on is what's happening now all around us and how your microgrid is part of this new world of where we are. So we're going to be touching on that, but the best part is the second half is going to be lessons learned from Western North Carolina, and I'll introduce our other speaker on that in a moment. But they already went through something that we should be prepared for in Ohio, and we'll get to find out how microgrids were key in the response and of course the mitigation to the future by having microgrids in place for the next time that occurs. So what brought us here, of course, is the trifecta of cost, demand, and reliability. Your electric bills went up, more and more demand is on the system because of data centers, and of course the grid keeps going down and getting worse. And for those of us in the first energy territory, they've asked to make that even harder and add 15 to 20 minutes of more time for them to respond, which will make the outage last longer, which is quite interesting when all the problems we had last summer. So, of course, your savings, your solution with the microgrid will be savings in revenue, control at your level of your energy system, resiliency in the face of disaster, and of course, security and cybersecurity. And of course, it is an interesting example that we can all remember the telecom systems and what's happened to telephones. Even if you are young, you remember when we were just started having cell phones. And of course, those of us who are a little bit older remember the phone on the wall that was analog and attached to the physical structure you had to work on. And now everybody has a phone in their pocket and a microcomputer in their pocket that they can live off of. So it's a completely different world. And that's what's kind of sort of happening to energy today. So with that in mind, here are our speakers. With us today is Keith Thompson from the Critical Services Microgrid Group. He is the co-founder and convener there of an intergenerational, interdisciplinary, and intercollegiate network of professionals and students, providing pro bono technical advisory services to nonprofits and governments in Western North Carolina since 2019 as a catalyst for networking, preparedness, technological innovation, and microgrid market formation. Keith is a professional information systems integrator, a relentless connector, a project manager for multiple collaborations, and a workforce developer through student engagement in conversions of mobile microgrid work vehicles at multiple locations around Western North Carolina. We'll use Warren Wilson College as probably one of the first ones, and at the Cherokee Boys Club. If we have time at the end, we can talk about what's going on over there. A computer science student designed EV fleet telematics system. So the students there have designed that. The Warren Wilson College student constructed an energy efficient solar microgrid tiny house and energy audits of municipal, commercial, and campus buildings. Keith continues to be a catalyst for investment in clean energy as he has led weekly Zoom meetings, some of which I attend, with energy system innovators, students, faculty, and staff since January 2020, where they've discussed and worked on microgrids, working lands, energy innovation, and decarbonization concepts and projects. Keith is pretty darn busy for a guy who should be retired. For those of you who have not seen this before, my name is Michael Benson. In addition to being the president of the board for Green Energy Ohio, I am an electrification consultant for local governments, leveraging an award-winning 30-year career in public service, including innovations which simultaneously improved service and lowered costs. My partner and I patented the mission-critical microgrid to ensure municipalities have robust, resilient energy systems to support their their transition to electrification. So let's do the quick slides I'm going to cover before we get it off to Keith. As I mentioned before, it is all about cost and budget and what you're trying to deal with as a municipality in Ohio. On the left, that chart is what happened for the PJM, which is our regional transmission grid, and their base residual auction results. That's the price that they're going to charge for the capacity from their grid to our local distribution utilities, who then pass that cost on to you. And you can see there was a massive spike last year, which kicked in June of 2025. So the chart on the right is the utility rate changes that happened last June. That's from the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. I didn't make that up. And as you can see, the best case scenario was a 10% increase, but most of us saw somewhere in the 30 to 35% range. So our prices have gone up, and what we are hearing lately is they're going to stay up high like that. Over 300 is where they expect to go in the next set of auctions, and that was the most recent one at 333 and 44 cents. But they are negotiating with governors who oversee this. So what else are we looking at? Reliability. So this is a map that indicates which areas of the North American electric grid, and by the way, it is North American, Canada and US, are in danger of failure. And you can see in the middle of the country that red, and that's the MISO or MISO area. That is under normal conditions, they have a chance for the transmission grid to fail. In the orange areas, under bad conditions, the transmission grid could fail. And if you're green, you're going to do okay. One example in the bottom right, that's SERC Central and Southeast. That is now green blue. It used to be orange because they have a new nuclear power plant, which gives them a little more reliability there. So we've been warned that we kind of sort of have problems, and we experienced it last summer in Ohio, and we experienced it in 2022 around Columbus when they had power go out. But it's going to get worse. And if you don't believe me, look at the new map. This is the most recent report from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They are a nonprofit. They actually monitor this all the time. If you didn't notice, a lot of us went red, including us, which means under normal conditions, we have a chance of our electric grid failing. And that is a major, major problem and a big shift. So if we thought it was bad last summer and a few years ago, expect it to be that bad or worse. If you haven't heard lately, the El Nino they're predicting, that's now 80% reliability, will have an El Nino summer. It's going to be another hot one, folks, which means our grid is going to be stressed. The ways we used to add energy to the grid takes a long time. So if you look at the top, if you want to work on transmission infrastructure, planning and permitting and building, it's 10 years to make this happen. If you want to build big generators, it's going to take you 6 years, 5 years. If you want to use utility scale clean energy, or what they call inverter-based resources, the solar and wind and hydro that goes through an inverter, it can take years to build it. But what we're talking about, what we are offering to people, is you can build small scale versions behind the meter microgrids in less than 1 year. That's what that oval is for. You can put up batteries and solar in months, and you don't have to try to build it at utility scale. You build a bunch of smaller ones together, and we operate them at utility scale. And that's the difference in what we're talking about and why they're called distributed energy resources, small resources distributed geographically around your area. And of course, my favorite graphic, because I'm the one that found this stack of books, these are all the benefits we pointed out in our conversation. That's in session 2. I don't want to go down too much because it really does come down to the same themes. Costs are lower. Revenue can be derived from your microgrid, which then makes it a possibility to finance it using other people's money. So you don't have to tie up your budgets to be able to do it. It provides you with security, not just energy security, but physical security as well, because you can disconnect. You can physically disconnect from the electric grid. And our electric grid can be hacked. We did that to Venezuela. Before we attacked Venezuela, we hacked their grid first and turned off the lights and then attacked them. That could happen to us. If you are hit with a disaster, we're going to hear a lot about that from Western North Carolina, you'll be much more resilient if you have a microgrid. You'll be able to operate and not have to wait for fuel to come in. And I won't steal Keith's thunder, but he'll tell you how expensive gasoline can get during disaster situations. And of course, because this is so big and needy for what you now have more than you need every day. That makes it a revenue generator. That makes it worth something for you all of the time. In my example, because everybody always wants to ask me when I present on here, I am currently off the grid. I didn't tell my microgrid to do it, but my solar on my roof, while it's snowing and cloudy, combined with my battery, is keeping me off the grid right now. So I'm talking to you on my off-grid microgrid, which is kind of crazy. But that's the kind of thing you can have. And the reason this is all happening, not just because of cost, not just because of demand, not just because of reliability being a problem, it is because the world really is changing. The new thing we're going to talk about is electrotech. I'm going to go through a set of slides here to explain it, but we have been evolving our energy system over a century, but all of it has now come to the table. It's available now at scale, at price. It's the best choice at the moment. It's kind of like how we had a space age technology race, or when the internet came along. All of a sudden, you could do things you could never do before. You can now do that with electrotech. And it's a combination of batteries and motors and solar and wind and heat pumps and all of it becoming available and mature. And the adoption rates are really, really ridiculous. If you've ever seen the adoption rate curves of air conditioning, computers, cell phones, the things that all of a sudden nobody had and all of a sudden everybody had. That's what we're talking about here with this new technology. And we are just going gangbusters. The one negative is the EV curve that you see there. That's a worldwide curve. You can go ahead and take a little pause in the US because I would say that some people who are in charge of making decisions are doing things in the short term to feed their own pockets. And in the long run, we're going to be behind, which we'll talk about at the end. Why is this all happening? How is it possible? It's all digital. It's just like the phones and the computers and everything we're dealing with. We went from cassette tapes and record players, which of course a lot of people are going back to record players. Very nice. Analog sounds very good. But most people listen to digital music nowadays. Same kind of thing is happening to energy. Energy is actually going to have its own digital communications system. So it becomes more efficient and more functional. That's where we're going to go with energy. And this is just at the beginning of it. But what's interesting is some things have not changed. The energy we're using with this new digital, this new smart grid is solar. The energy you are putting in your gas tank or your diesel tank or your coal plant or your natural gas plant is also solar. What people don't realize is the solar energy that's inside the planet arrived here hundreds of millions of years ago and was stored in microorganisms and plants and other items that passed away or died and then were crushed down and became part of our earth. Over hundreds of millions of years, they turned into oil and coal and natural gas. But there's only so much left inside the earth. And what's really crazy is in 5 days, the current solar that lands on our planet gives us as much energy that's left inside the planet at completely. All the fossil fuels left are the same as 5 days of solar. It's so much power available to us. If you want to go nuclear, the nuclear is in the sky. That is a nuclear fission or fusion reactor. We have nuclear fusion. It gives us energy every single day. And it's the same in 5 days as everything that's left inside the planet. It also doesn't require you to have to go get it and put it through the Strait of Hormuz. You can get it at your home or your property every single day. And like I showed you, I'm operating on a cloudy, cold winter day and operating off of my solar and my battery. It's just people have to realize that we are talking the same energy and there's no political purpose to any of this stuff. It's just reality and physics and energy. Why does it work? Why does it save so much money? Efficiency. When you hear the term primary power, that's the amount of energy put into a system. If it's a fossil fuel primary power, you will lose 60 to 80% of it because it disappears as heat and exhaust. If you put in primary power that's electric to begin with, you keep almost 100%. It's extremely efficient. So when you're looking on the left-hand chart there, big energy generation going into the grid, electric from wind and solar is 2 to 3 times as efficient, which means you will get that much more out of it. You don't have to produce the same amount of primary power of fossil fuels that you put in because you get more out of wind and solar that you put in. Same thing for driving the car. If you're driving your car and it's electric, it's going to be 2 to 4 times as efficient. So you don't need to replace a gas tank's worth of power. You need to replace 1/4 or 1/2 or 1/3 of a gas tank's amount of power to be able to have the same amount of performance. And by the way, electric vehicles perform a lot better, way faster, incredible performance from electric vehicles. And of course, heating for our homes and for our businesses. Heat pumps not only are 3 to 4 times more efficient, they're actually more than 100% efficient because they gather energy from the ambient air or ground around them and actually create energy and add more electric power into the system that you had before. So is this real? Can it really happen? Well, the answer is absolutely. If we looked at this in 2000, 25 years ago, we could electrify 25% of our buildings, our industries, and our transportations. Today, we can electrify 75%. 25% we can't is the high temperature manufacturing processes, planes and ships. And by the way, we're working on planes and ships. My nephew actually works at Beta Technologies up in Burlington, Vermont, and that's an electric plane company that's already landed at JFK and transports people. So we're working on all this stuff. But as of this moment today, if you want to electrify your building, you can do 100% of it. And if you want to electrify your transportation, unless you're doing planes and ships, you can do electric today. This is not something that we're looking forward to. This is available now. This is why this is all happening. It's happening around the world. And of course, learning curves are the key. Anybody ever hear of Moore's Law or Wright's Law, where the more microchips you build and the smaller you build them, the less cost that you have for microchips, which is why computers and cell phones are so inexpensive nowadays. Well, solar panels and batteries and wind turbines are all on learning curves that keep getting cheaper. What has never gotten cheaper? Oil. It's never in its history. Coal has never gotten cheaper. Natural gas isn't going to get cheaper. It's a commodity. It moves up and down with the prices, but you can't get those on learning curves. And so far, we've been unsuccessful to get nuclear on learning curves, but they're going to try really hard. Let's see how they do. But meanwhile, solar and storage and wind are all on learning curves and keep getting cheaper the more you build them out. So they're the better option economically over the fossil fuel option. And my last slide. This is happening everywhere. We are in a competition. On the right-hand side, you see a big red circle. That's China. China is kicking our butt on electrification, which is the x-axis, and on renewable acceleration, which is the y-axis. They are so far ahead of us. But do you know who also is far ahead of us? Mexico, Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and India are also all kicking our butts. We are shooting ourselves in the foot. We are making bad decisions because of some political ideology or convenience or short-term thinking, like buying down and selling off all your EV incentives so that you can get a better share price for your shareholders in the short term. We need to catch up, and we need to catch up big time. So the U.S., if you couldn't see, is on the far left. We are doing pretty good on renewables, but we are not electrifying anywhere fast enough. And I think Pakistan shouldn't be kicking our butts. So we need to get active and get working and see what we can do. And it's not just my crazy idea. This isn't just me. This is stuff that really happened to people. And the rest of the time, which is why I went kind of fast because I want Keith to have the time. Um, Microgrids, I am not going to say they save lives. I won't say it. That's a bit too hyperbolic, but they're essential to the rest of the services and systems that then save people's lives or keep people happy and healthy. We did talk about that value for municipalities, that you're responsible for life safety. You're responsible for the health and well-being of the people that live, work, and visit your community. So what great lesson can we learn? Can we at least take a positive value from a horrible situation that happened from Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina back in September of 2024? And Keith is going to go through and discuss it. And it's a little bit tough to do because he lived literally through it. But the lessons to learn as you listen to Keith tell the story is there's no time like right now to act. The price is there, the possibility is there, the technology is there. These are essential for your essential services. They absolutely pay off. They're absolutely worth it, and they will then make you better. when the disaster hits your section, your area of Ohio. So let's take advantage of this series and what we learned, and I'm going to turn it over to Keith, and we're going to switch sharing. So Keith, are you ready?
Ready.
Here we go, Keith Thompson, and I am going to
Hello,
get out of the way.
hello, everyone. I'm going to give a little bit of context in the background before I switch to the uh, PowerPoint presentation. But it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Chief Michael Benson's been a valuable member of our critical services microgrid group for 5 years now. Always go to him to remind us of why it's important that we do this work. Um, you can see on the screen what we experience here in our own a watershed. This is the Swananoa River. These are highways of which the DOT, North Carolina DOT is estimated $6 billion in repair work, including $2 billion for I-40 through the Pigeon River Gorge between us and Knoxville. We have unique geography and topography. But when the Gulf of Mexico, which is increasingly warm, you can have a tropical depression enter in the Gulf, uh, hit, make landfall in Florida at Category 5 from picking up all that warm, moist air, and it comes up and hits our mountains and cools off and dumps, in the case of Helene, 30 trillion gallons of water, which comes straight down the sides of the hills and collects in our valleys and in our creeks. And in our case, it washed away homes, bridges, roads, people. Some of my neighbors just south of where the hurricane passed over my house, one family lost 11 family members amongst 13 in one small community called Craigtown. These are things about which it's the PTSD from having to survive this led many of us to get out and try to do something as soon as it quit raining. We were out with chainsaws. We were out moving, debris out of the way so that we could move around. And the first meeting in 6 years or 5 years at the time that we didn't have our weekly Zoom meeting was the afternoon that Helene hit, and I didn't have power or internet. Otherwise, we've been meeting weekly, talking about microgrids, talking about planning, talking about how do we get young people to understand and appreciate the opportunities for their own career development. But these are the things about which I want to talk today, but I wanted to give you some context. And one of the things about this, the track of this storm that kind of ties Western North Carolina to Ohio is that, as you might remember, after it left us, it made a beeline directly to you. And we also have some common, because we have a lot of industry and opportunities that have come along in electrification, in battery technology, electric vehicle manufacturing, a lot of things that we have in North Carolina. Uh, we Ohio's going through the same issues about how do we take these opportunities and turn them into the future for our people, for our businesses, for our communities, and the having a positive effort keeps people, especially people who've been traumatized by you name it, whether it's a pandemic or storms, the floods, the fires that are coming with increasing frequency throughout the country, having something to address that seems like it's, in the spirit of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts motto, be prepared. So this is what we have been working on, from just very small scalable projects, including these what we call mobile microgrid work vehicles on campus at Warren Wilson College. These vehicles have onboard AC power for charging battery tools, for being able to run outdoor lighting and sound systems rather than run a generator for campus events. You can plug one into the charger, AC charger from one of them into the inverter on another to do a jump start if the solar panels weren't enough to keep it charged, which mostly that's how these vehicles are used. And this is on a hilly campus, Western North Carolina. They're used for work crews, for people movers, and for bringing people who are, the fundraisers are trying to impress, or the parents who, and students they're trying to recruit to be the next generation of students at the college. So these are very practical tools. This right here, I think the water level that just over this bamboo brush here is the Shenandoah River. I think the water was about at this level where my mouse is moving uh, from the flood. A lot of this infrastructure, the greenhouses and all, were damaged during the flood. Uh, so I'm going to talk about how uh, we had been thinking about these disasters for decades. Some of us going back to the first oil shock in 1973, when when teenagers we started having to siphon gasoline to put in our own cars. The statute of limitations, I think, is run out on that one. But the catalyst for thinking about what we need to do to be prepared and what we need to do to prepare young people to make this their life and their career. Uh, those are things about which we have to think about, and then we have to act upon it. Once you have the gift of knowledge, it almost becomes critical that we take some sort of action. And so what we've been doing is looking at a variety of different campuses and facilities and opportunities to do systems integration and try to pull into the savings and benefits buildings and their energy systems, fleets and their fuel requirements for an ability for electrification to be able to not only save on fuel costs, but on much lower maintenance costs, because electric vehicles, as you know, have many fewer moving parts, and the oil changes and fluid replacements and maintenance are much lower. So these are a couple of our projects that we've worked on over the last 7 years since we started. The Cherokee Boys Club campus, that is the fleet management facility for the Eastern Band of Cherokee people, including their public school bus fleet, which by the end of this year will have 21 electric school buses. They started with one 4 years ago, and they've worked up to a fleet of 16 currently, and are currently implementing a microgrid for charging. It's planned to be able to not only run the routes, which are static routes for fleets, are a really nice thing. And school bus fleets are very static in their routes. Ability to charge that from local on-site solar with battery storage for being able to do some charging at night, being able to do DC fast charging for being able to actually have a test bed with Duke Energy to put battery power from the school buses back onto the grid. The other map here is planning. We've worked on the campus at Warren Wilson College, which is a campus of about 800 students in Western North Carolina. And again, the river, the Shenandoah River, is just below this, where they had extreme flooding. So this is an earlier iteration before we've added more canopy solar for the electric school bus charging fleet at Cherokee. The combined savings and benefits that you can get by putting together the power electronics and the solar generation from on-site capabilities, batteries, EV chargers, These are Thomas-built electric school buses manufactured in High Point, North Carolina, for over 100 years. They're owned by Daimler, so they're tied into the whole ecology of electric vehicles that Daimler is doing, including their electric tractors. Uh, on site, we switched from doing a Freightliner, which is Daimler, to using Volvo, but we have a Volvo electric tractor for which they do water deliveries. Um, so again, microgrids. Uh, I won't go into a lot of what microgrids, but I would add the idea because a lot of people who carry a phone in their pocket know that they have to keep that charged. They have to go into island mode for what we call when the microgrid goes off of the grid. But people have experience with these. Ships and planes and helicopters are all microgrids when they leave shore power. Phones, laptops, electric vehicles. Uh, Police and fire stations are required by insurance and other regulations to have generators and circuit panels that can meet critical loads. Fire station, for instance, you've got to have water pumps, communications, other capabilities to be able to do the work when the grid goes down again and again. And so in the outages that we suffered from 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes longer in remote communities, uh, being able to provide services, critical services for resiliency, for people's getting together and being able to do recovery work. Those are the types of things that, military bases and college campuses and data centers also have to have power pretty much 99.99 percent of the time. So the only way you can do that in increasing conditions is through microgrids. One of the microgrids that actually was a result of the group that our Critical Services Microgrid group spun off from, the technical committee that proposed, and it led to the construction of the town of Hot Springs, north of Asheville on the French Broad River, is a service area that Duke Energy Progress has that butts up all the way to the Tennessee border and Tennessee Valley Authority territory. But a solar and battery microgrid to be able to island from the high voltage line through the national forest in order to be able to de-energize that line and provide power to this town in instances where high winds and drought might lead to a forest fire being sparked by Duke. They went ahead and put this in. It's been a major test bed, and the benefit is included providing resiliency, for which the town was able to bring power back up sooner than it would have if it had to wait for the damaged power line through the town. And they had their substation damage in the flooding from Helene, because the French Broad River right down here came up and pretty much swallowed the town. So this was the kind of thing that we saw a lot of, and more people around the country for more and more reasons are also having. Again, the ability to gain those benefits that Michael did such a good job of showing. But it's also economic and educational opportunities for workforce and career development. So we've worked a lot to be able to tie students from high schools like at Cherokee Public High School to doing hands-on projects like the mobile microgrid work vehicles, and work with low voltage, DC and AC, and working with solar panels and batteries and wiring and cabling and all of those types of things is a very good sort of entry level, hands-on experiential learning experience. And we've been able to graduate some of the students who've gone out as on their own from engineering schools into the workforce. And so we really look forward to being able to do more of that. We highly recommend that y'all see this as something that y'all might work into how you do these things. Because on a team, you need planning. You need to take different people with different skills and talents to be able to work together. And that's really what is required. You will not do it. No one person can do this alone. And it takes, a lot of collaboration if you're going to pull this off. Um, a motivational factor, because again, I always take Chief Michael Benson as my go-to guy to explain what is a critical service, what is a mission critical, what is the motivation to do these things and to plan and to get people who their day job and their job description may not include planning to do a microgrid, but it is planning to save lives. If they're in the budget office, saving money in order to be able to deliver these critical public services is important. One of our efforts, and we don't always succeed, but trying to collaborate with the UNC Asheville is it's my alma mater, but it's also has a large public facility. It's Swiss Army knife facility. It's a athletic venue for basketball. It hosts graduations. It has classrooms, has offices. It has kitchen facilities and shower facilities. This is a FEMA shelter at the Sherrill Center on the UNCA campus. It's already served for evacuees from Eastern North Carolina hurricanes in the past. But our goal was to try to get it to become a site for a microgrid that would be both a critical services facility during a grid outage where we needed shelter up here in the mountains, but also to be able to, uh, you know, uh, teach people and train people how to plan for resiliency, plan for being prepared for the known knowns of what's coming. And so these are the things that we have tried to do. We do it on a small scale level, but we try to aim to use the principles that can be scaled far up the chain. During Helene, this is my Chevy Bolt, 2020 Chevy Bolt, pulling a trailer with solar panels and the inverter and batteries to be able to hook up. And we use this, among other places, at a halfway house for a mental health facility to provide have them be able to turn off their noisy, stinky generators and be able to run on solar and batteries for their refrigeration and lighting and people's phone charging and other things. We This facility, which is just down along the river on campus at Warren Wilson, had flooding up to about this level, but it was able to power a basically a workstation for all of the crews, for students and others on this work college campus, to be able to go out and cut down the trees that had landed on the roads and on the buildings, and clean up the campus and get it back up to speed. It took them 6 weeks before they could reopen campus, but uh, it was we even ran a commercial laundry off of the power from the microgrid. Likewise, these are some of our mobile microgrid work vehicles that we built with the students, engineering students at UNC Asheville. And these were the two that had the fleet telematics on the system. Currently, in terms of economic opportunities, as well as preparing to have a more effective means of delivery for emergency power to go to community resiliency centers out in communities like what we had. People just naturally tended to show up at the churches or the fire stations or the old public schools that had become community centers throughout the mountains. Having solar and batteries and inverters to be able to lay the solar panels out on the ground. Well, here's an example of something that we're working on with grants and with a local just-in-time manufacturer whose family members uh, lived and lost family members in the community, the Craigtown community that I mentioned earlier. So this is something that we're doing in collaboration with both the engineering students and with members of the critical services microgrid group. We try to work towards being able to do a lot of educational and inspirational work while helping people to see where they might fit in. Uh, Again, it takes more than it can't just be engineers. It's got to be finance people. It's got to be the maintenance and the custodial people in a facility because they're the ones who know how things work. And having mutual respect amongst a lot of different people with a lot of different skills is a critical service itself. How we treat each other, especially in high stress situations like having to manage change. So those are things about which we've tried to work. These are the two electric tractors at Warren Wilson College. This is at their compost facility, but these are used in landscaping, groundskeeping on campus and in the garden. Um, the These are charged on that microgrid that I showed earlier with that had been the only renewable power for for response after Helene on the Warren Wilson College campus. This is a Chevy Silverado EV that is pulling a educational center's solar microgrid that also has the capacity to charge the EV from its solar panels. Um, we again trying to demonstrate these things. Go to EV car shows. Go anywhere people can see and go. I didn't know you could do that. Um, what else can you do with these technologies? Trying to inspire people to understand and take action, especially when it comes to, you know, budget impacts. Because if a city or town or a college campus or a local manufacturer or a church who's trying to save money on their electric bill or be a shelter when the grid goes down, uh, what's it going to cost? What's in it for me? How do I plan to do that? And how might we do something that maybe you think nobody's ever done it before, but there's just an inordinate number of examples of how it has been done. And there's increasing evidence if we just don't get traumatized and forget after the fact that there are reasons we should be doing this. And after every disaster, we should be speeding up our efforts. But what we really need to do is inspire young people because, I've got two grown, uh, I call them children, but they're in their 30s, both of whom are electrical engineers. One of whom, after 12 years in the Coast Guard, he's a senior in electrical engineering at NC State. His big sister got her electrical engineering degree in 2020 and works at UL and RTP, Research Triangle Park. But young people who are trying to see something to hope for in the future, I think clean energy, being able to focus to provide clean air and clean water, resiliency, a solution to the whatever might happen again and again and again in the Straits of Hormuz. These are things about which some of us who've been doing this since we were teenagers, we'd like to share that hope and inspiration with others. Um, so we do need positive policy. If it can't be done at the federal government level for some reason or another, what can be done at a state and local level? Because local and state governments have large energy budgets. If you can save money, which you can, Michael demonstrated that very effectively. If you can save taxpayer money, if you can increase the effectiveness of your operations, if you can do things that also incentivize local businesses, local industries to be able to provide more jobs and be more resilient. If you lose one industry, because Lord knows y'all have lost steel, we've lost furniture, tobacco, any single company towns. We've had a number of them, some of which have come back with great effectiveness. Durham, North Carolina, Winston-Salem were tobacco towns. You can't find nicer communities with more diverse economies unless you go to Ohio, go to Cincinnati or Columbus, or some of your places that have come through this, mostly because of education, because of the universities and community college that we've invested in. So these are things about how policy will get through this together. This is Gary Creek Fire Station, which has been one of my IT clients for 25 years, along with the just-in-time manufacturer that I mentioned before. This is across the street from where the debris fall started up on the ridge and went all the way down the valley, taking 13 lives with it and numerous houses and bridges and roads. This is where we hope that trailered mobile microgrid will live and provide power to this building on a normal basis before it has to be taken out on emergency runs. And in conclusion, this is something that this is going to take a long time, but there's no time like the present to, if you haven't already started, to get started and try to work together, building teams to be able to capture the savings and benefits that are much greater than the sum of their parts. And I hope that you all will have taken away from this 6 sessions that Michael has done such a great job of helping put together, and look forward to what's possible, because as if you remember from Arthur C. Clarke's 2001 Space Odyssey, where he said, Hal, the computer, says, something wonderful is about to happen. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So I thank y'all all for being here, and I wish you Godspeed on your efforts to bring this about. And Michael,
Sorry,
take
that
it,
took me
take
a
it.
second to get everything back up and running. Everyone, that is the conclusion of Keith's portion. I just have a little bit of a conclusion, and we want to have plenty of time for conversation or questions afterwards. So, one, it's not just me, even though Keith gives me a lot of credit. I'm just, filling the role to lead others to where we need to go. One of the persons who's done most of the work to put this all together is Rachel uh, Ellenberger from Green Seed Collective, running this whole series. And you made me realize something, Keith, when you were talking about how you're operating things. Uh, Believe it or not, in Ohio, this May, the Scarlet, Gray, and Green Fair in Worcester at the Ohio State University ATI campus, they're going to have a food truck event, or an event that is all about clean energy and transportation. They're going to have their food trucks powered by electric vehicles. So the electric vehicles that are coming into that event are actually going to be used to power the food trucks. So they're trying to catch up to what they're doing down there in Asheville and around Asheville, and all the examples that Keith gave you. Please use the chat to put your Q&A. We actually do have some good time. Let me give a little bit of conclusion, but those are our contact information. And see, I don't see anything specific, but I did see some good references in the chat. For those who don't understand what was put in there by John, there is actually a program at Cleveland State University to train existing engineers and electricians specifically on how to use their skills for microgrid development. So, very new program up at Cleveland State University, part of the workforce efforts that we are doing at Green Energy Ohio, along with the Ohio Workforce Coalition. In addition, there is a conference coming up in September, the Energy and Mobility Conference. You can find it at, I think it's energyandmobility.org or .com. John, if you want to put that in the chat, that'd be nice too. There's also the Ohio Energy Conference that'll be this fall. Green Energy Ohio is part of that conference as well. And I'm not seeing a bunch of new questions, which is kind of crazy. I thought we'd had a bunch at the end, so we will go to the next slide. Here's what Green Energy Ohio wanted to do at the conclusion of this event. So every community is facing the same challenges. We all have the same issues to deal with. However, every community comes to that challenge in a unique way. So you're all unique, even though you're all the same. So you have to begin your journey toward using microgrids from where you are today. You can't just decide to skip steps. So we are here to help. Green Energy Ohio has developed this program specifically to educate people, but it's also to develop a toolbox that we can give you access to. So the first step to that is we're going to give you 30 minutes of a free consultation based on your community where you are, so you can at least have an idea which direction to go in. But we have started to accumulate and add people into our Green Energy Ohio business membership group to be able to provide you with feasibility studies, with the energy audits, with microgrid design and engineering, how you can be able to pay for the microgrids, actually build those microgrids and operate them and make them work. And of course, working as a virtual power plant to be able to provide you with revenue. But one of the things we really want to develop, either if you are from a municipality or if you live in one, and you would like your municipality to do something, the more municipalities we can get lined up who are interested in getting a microgrid or microgrids for their community, that provides us with what they call advanced market capitalization. So those of you who are in finance, you understand what I'm talking about, but essentially is if you build it, they will come. Well, if we build a big enough book of business, then we will get financiers to provide the revenue to make it happen right away, which will then lower the cost for everyone. Kind of like cooperative purchasing, where you can have four communities that go in together and be able to get it all at a lower price. Well, this wouldn't be getting it at a lower price, would be financing it at a lower cost, so that you can get better rates, better advantage, more revenue, more value for your municipality. And the best part is that program is being built on Ohio businesses, and we've got a big meeting next month for our board to actually build this out and make it an informal thing and get it going. So I'm pretty impressed by what our folks at Green Energy Ohio are doing. And when you get started with your little consultation with me, actually, I'm going to be the one to give you the free consultation, then we are going to be able to get you to the right folks. And I kind of like this baseball analogy since we're almost at the end of spring training. We are building out our bench of players so that we could call up whichever one you need to come in and get a hit for your community. So your first step is to send an email to info@greenenergyohio.org. That QR code on the screen will automatically send that email for you. So you just type in who you are and off it will go, and we'll look for those. And of course, we're going to be sending out a survey like any other webinar or training. Going to have a survey on how well we did. Please look for that survey right after the end of this session. And you'll get it in an email. It should be coming from Rachel. So you just be able to, someone you've already gotten emails for. She wouldn't have to worry about it going into your spam, but please check and make sure it's there. And we want to then thank all of our attendees and the folks who have viewed this on YouTube. We want you to look for future series on commercial, industrial, or higher education, or healthcare, or K through 12. Which one we go for next, part of that will be decided by you because that's in your survey. And again, thank you to Keith Thompson for joining us today. He also brought along some folks from the Asheville, North Carolina area to see what kind of stuff we're talking about. And I am really surprised that I'm not seeing any questions. Rachel, are you seeing any questions? Anybody seeing questions? We could not have done that good of a job. But if you think we did, then we'll finish off early because I don't want to waste people's time. So be careful out there. Enjoy your St. Patrick's Day safely. And my last note on my microgrid here at the house, let's see, it's cloudy. Well, actually, we have a little bit of sunshine. I am currently overpowering the house and I could charge my battery pack right now because I have more solar than I'm using, which is only a little over half a kilowatt. But when you don't have when you have a very efficient house, combination of electrification, efficiency, solar, microgrid, I'm living it. And I tell you, you want to live it in your communities as well. So thank you very much for attending. Have a great week. Have a great holiday, and we will be all done. See you.